That Comcast commercial's on loop.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you would all take your seats, we're soon to have a quorum. We're now at 6. What I'd like to do is at least open up the meeting, and perhaps there might be some things that we don't need a quorum to do. Robert, how you doing? Good to see you. All right, so Rick, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Why don't you call the roll, and then when we get the 7th person, that'll constitute a quorum.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Here.
Mr. Avia? Here. Mr. Holland? Mr. Lasarte? Mr. Martinez? Mr. Rodriguez? Here. Mr. Sanabria? Ms. Smith-Fano? Secretary Pago? Treasurer Fernandez Guzman? Vice Chair Gutierrez? Chair Ferre?
Here.
Present quorum, we have 6.
We have 6. We need one more person.
We have 7, but doesn't count for quorum.
Since we have a new rule, which we'll get into later on, we need a 7th person to have a quorum. In the meantime, we can go into the declaration of voting conflicts. A quorum.
Thank you.
In the old days, we could get away with quorum by telephone, but evidently that was right on the line, and we'll get into that discussion later on. So we now have to have a quorum, and I understand we have another 5 minutes.
Yeah, another 5 minutes.
Here we are. We have a 7th. We have 7th and 8th. Yeah. All right. We now have a quorum. So we would you call the 2 missing people? Call them for the roll. No, just for the ones that are. She's here.
Treasurer Fernandez Guzman?
All right, we now have a quorum, and now we're into the declaration of voting conflicts.
Does anyone have any voting conflicts to announce? None, Mr. Chairman.
We then move on to citizens' comments. Are there any citizens' comments that were recorded, Mr. Director?
None were requested, Mr. Chair.
Is there anybody here that wishes to address the MDX board? We're now on item number 2, the approval of the summary minutes. They've been moved by Vice Chair Gutierrez. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Guzman, Fernandez Guzman. Is there further discussion? All those in favor of approval of the minutes say aye. Opposed? They're approved. Executive Director's report. All right, at this time, since we do have 9 members present, we're going to make a presentation. Mr. Wortman, would you, do we have a photographer?
Photographer.
Is a photographer here?
Multitasked.
Okay,
Multi-talented.
so I think, why don't we all go up to the, and as you walk, I will read the plaque. It says, "The Board of Directors and staff gratefully acknowledge the contribution of Norman R. Wortman, MDX board member from 2008 to 2013. Your passion and exemplary commitment to the development of innovative transportation initiatives for Miami-Dade has made a difference towards achieving MDX's mission and vision. Thank you, Mr. Wortman, for all the time you have dedicated over the years sharing your expertise and wisdom with us. Thank you." Why don't we do it the other way around? Yeah.
$10, Mario.
Always have a back.
He's just pulling you like his wife watches it. You know.
Thank you. And I'm sure we'll see you back here again. I look forward to it.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Your report.
Mr. Chairman, board members, welcome back from the summer break, I guess. It's been a while since the last report. Update you on ongoing projects. Central Boulevard, entrance to the airport, it's about 85% complete. That project, as well as the 874 main line widening from Kendall to the Palmetto, will be complete by the end of this calendar year. I have spoken to the director of the airport, and there will be a ribbon-cutting event, so we'll keep you posted on the Central Boulevard project. Another project that I'll start reporting on more periodically is the 836 infrastructure for ORT. As you well know, when you go east, the wing has been taken down. That's all in preparation for the new gantry that will go east and west at 17th Avenue. So that work has been coordinated. Traffic is flowing. Unfortunately, today there was some sort of an incident coming this way. So, allegedly.
There is an accident that was
That could be confirmed.
We're going to request flashing lights.
On other updates of other issues that are going on, our transition from ETCC, the current toll vendor back office, today, October 1st, we officially transitioned our transactions to a new host. And I want to thank the staff. I want to thank Helen and Steve's staff and Marie for assisting us in that transition, and Ivan, Ivan who's had to make it all work. But as of today, the transactions are going to an MDX host. And then from there, we're sending them up to the Turnpike, and we're holding images. So 44 days from now, there will be no more activity in the AMTES or our current back office. So that is an update that is important to us today. As far as the centralized customer service center, we had a meeting with the Turnpike, Orlando, and Tampa last month, 3-day meeting to talk about governance and cost sharing. It was a very productive meeting. We did not finalize anything, but we reached agreement on structures of how this can work. We're going to have follow-up meetings coming up in 2 weeks, and the invitation to negotiate is going to be released November 1st to industry. So the the plan is to release it November 1st. On national interoperability, and that's a topic that is going to be sensitive and we're going to discuss a lot. At this current IBTTA meeting, there was a presentation of the Interoperability Committee. The conversations are already occurring as far as how to achieve interoperability nationally as mandated in MAP 21 or the Federal Transportation Bill by 2016. The idea is that we want to get our regions interoperable and then connect our regions. This notion that a person would drive cross-country, realistically, truck drivers will do that. But a person in today's world with a portable transponder can take their transponder from New York, fly to Miami, and put it on a rental car and use their account. And that's interoperable. So if we can exchange account information, it's seamless to the customer. And that's what we're trying to achieve. We're establishing protocols. We're establishing how the transition can occur. And most important, what impact is it going to have to the multiple jurisdictions, agencies from a financial standpoint. MDX is fortunate because MDX is, we're closing our system, so we're installing equipment that we didn't have. So when we install this equipment, we're making sure it's multi-protocol in its nature, that it can read various protocols. So we're being set up for that. But there are other agencies around the country that have established equipment that it's going to cost a lot to transition out, and that's something that needs to be taken into consideration. Another update, the strategic plan, we have gotten underway. Some of you have already been interviewed. Others are being scheduled to be interviewed. The one comment I would make to all board members is, as you get interviewed, all your comments, please, any suggestion, let us know on process, on timeline, whatever it is, please let us know so it can get back to us and we can adjust accordingly and make sure that we develop a product that is going to be usable and will be the foundation for us moving forward with our updated strategic plan. Couple bits of news. As you know, Florida International University was granted a Tiger grant, $11.3 million. MDX has been a long-standing partner with Florida International University in pursuing this Tiger application, and I guess on the fifth chance, we were successful. What does it mean for the university? It means that the university is going to develop a smart transportation hub in the heart of their university that is going to link up to their neighbor city, Sweetwater, and is going to use transportation technology and current infrastructure of intelligent transportation systems. 836. Part of the application said that they wanted to take advantage of express buses on 836 in linking the university to the Miami Intermodal Center and developing applications for motorists in predicting how traffic and how transportation is going to use. Not just on the roadway, but on transit, how trucks are going to use the facilities. All of this will be in a predictive model. That was what was attractive. The corporate partner is IBM, who's part of the university's research department. So they have given their time, materials, and are going to participate financially, as I have been told. So I will keep you updated. In fact, I'm going to have the university come to an operations committee and a subsequent board meeting to present the entire project and their approach in the coming months. As far as IBTTA, I thank Board Member Weinberg, Board Member Rodriguez-Pena, and Chair Ferre for joining me in Vancouver at the 81st annual meeting. I've been to a lot of IBTTA meetings. The content in this meeting was exceptional. The meeting was very condensed, but a lot of good information. Themes. Themes are consistent with what MDX has been doing for the last few years. Of course, there's a lack of funding in transportation, but aside from that, what are you doing to move forward? How are we moving forward? They talked about the use of technology. How do you maximize technology to get more throughput of people and goods? So there was a lot of discussion. There was discussion on partnerships, rethinking partnerships, not just public-private in the traditional concessionaire arrangement, but public-public. Again, rethink your partnerships, maximize the comment, and I wrote it, it says, think smarter, not harder in coming up with these partnerships. So that was a message that went out there. There was a whole session on cars, on what's happening with the connected vehicle program. The U.S. Department of Transportation, the head of the office for connected vehicles in the RITA and the research, I forget what the acronym stands for, but she was there, and they talked about connected vehicles. And the interesting thing is, it's not about the vehicles. All the vehicles are working towards being smart, detecting what's around them, talking to each other. What's really going to delay the full implementation is the infrastructure. How many of our agencies can get the infrastructure in play so that the infrastructure talks to the vehicle and the vehicle talks to another? So the important thing about that element is that it changes the way we think out in the future. When you're looking at planning 20, 30 years down the line, the analogy this one speaker said, when you come to automated vehicles, connected vehicles, it's no different than in your tolling. When you went from the peach basket or the coin collector and you could process 200, 250 cars per lane per hour, and you went to the automated coin machine and you got close to 400, and then you went to all electronic, which is close to 2,000, with automated vehicles that talk to each other and take the driver out of it. Potentially, you could see 4,000 cars per lane per hour. What does that do to your infrastructure? What does that do to your financial models? How do you prepare for that in the future? So that was really interesting. The other theme, and it's one that we deal with here all the time, they called it the 3 T's, tolling, transit, and technology. How do you marry the 3 of them together? The notion of managed lanes, the notion of express buses on expressways, on tolled facilities, is gaining steam all over the world because transit's appeal is its reliability, and that's why everybody wants rail, because it's reliable. If you can mirror that reliability on our current infrastructure of highways, and tolling is a great tool to try and mirror that, that is a lower cost, more efficient use of that particular infrastructure. So there was a lot of conversation. In fact, the director of the Tampa-Hillsborough Expressway Authority, Joe Wagner, made a presentation where he actually turned the formula of funding around. Instead of it being a highway funding and then transit funding, he basically looked at transit as being a partner in the capital component of it. So very good program, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Chairman, and with that, I'll conclude my report and answer your questions.
Any questions or further comments? All right, the next item, which is item number 4, General Counsel's report, with everybody's concurrence, I'm going to move that to the end so that we won't keep all these people waiting. So we now are, and item number 5, which is the MPO report, and I'm going to ask Alfred, who was at the meeting, to report to us.
Mr. Chair, board members, at the MPO, the All Aboard Florida team gave an update on the rail train that's going from Miami, downtown Miami to Orlando Airport. A very in-depth overview. They discussed ridership. They discussed the potential rollout of their rolling stock and hopefully a service online by somewhere after 2015 to 2016 timeframe. Construction is slated to start some point later on this year, potentially early next year. That was just an informational item for the MPO governing board. The most important item of action that was taken by the board was a public hearing item on the 2035 Long-Range Transportation Plan Amendment and the TIP Amendment for FDOT on modification of State Road 93 I-75 managed lane project segments. That was actually adopted with a minor amendment, a friendly amendment to it, related to making sure that transit is coordinated into the managed lanes component of it. There were about 3 or 4 other items on the agenda, but none really related to limited access or highway facilities.
Any questions? All right, thank you. We're now on the treasurer's report.
Marie, could you take us through the financials for August, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. The Treasurer's report is for the 2-month period for fiscal year 14. Year to date, we posted $23.5 million worth of revenue. The budget was 21.4 overall revenue. We're showing a variance of $2.1 million. As we discussed at the Budget and Finance meeting, there wasn't anything particular that stood out on the revenue. The forecast that was built back in April took in consideration certain adjustments due to the conversion of our operations. So I think it's just more in line that the forecast is back into toward the end of the year. On expenses, nothing notable that stands out. Actually, the expenses of 7.7 is aligned to the overall budget, as well as the interest expense. Net revenue for the 2-month period was $5.7 million, and again, we're posting a positive favorable variance of $2.1 million overall for the 2-month period.
Thank you, Marie. Any questions concerning the budget report, Mr. Chairman?
Thank you very much. We're now on to committee reports, Policy and Planning Committee meeting of 8/13.
Mr. Chairman, we will waive those because those items will come to the board and subsequent committees for
Right,
approval.
and the same thing for the Operation Committee.
Correct, sir.
All right, is there any objection to that or any questions? We're now on item number 8, which is the consent agenda. Is there a travel approval? Is there a motion? Moved by Vice Chair Gutierrez. Is there a second? Mr. Avia, further discussion? Yes.
We're going to add Mr. Holland to the travel.
Okay. So let the record reflect that Mr. Robert Holland will be added to the travel to Orlando for the Team Florida meeting. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? We're now on item number 9A, which is the approval of the debt management policy endorsed by the Policy and Planning Committee on 8/13. All right, Mr. Director.
Yes, sir. This was an action item that was taken by the Policy and Planning on August 13th, as well as the Budget and Finance on June 18th. The debt management policy puts into an actual policy, formalizes our management practices. The main components of the policy is that we are, the parameters are that we would have a debt management financing plan that would show a 1.5 senior coverage or above. The mixture of bond issuance and funding on hand would be a 30% pay-as-you-go. We also, in the policy, include reduction of our overall variable debt. And one other item is that they continue to report back to Budget and Finance no less than once a fiscal year on the overall financing plan and the composition of our outstanding debt. There is no direct financial impact. This is just a policy.
All right, Mr. Fernandez Guzman, is there anything else that you want to add to this? I'll let you make the motion then.
I will move this policy forward.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on item 9A? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. We're now on B. Marie, would you take us through that?
Item B is the renewal of the contract Moore and City of Lovelace for financial auditing services. This was endorsed by the Budget and Finance Committee September 27, 2013. This contract was procured in March 29, 2011. It was a contract that was issued for 3 years, base years, and then 2 one-year extensions. The executive director has done a performance evaluation that is attached within your package. We are requesting that both years of the extension be granted, and the annual cost is $62,000 for fiscal year 14 and $63,000 for fiscal year 15.
Mr. Fernandez Guzman,
I will move the motion forward.
is there any further discussion on the issue? Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Evia. Further discussion? All those in favor of item 9B, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. We're now on C. Marie.
This item is requesting approval to execute a call modification on a portion of Bond Series 2016 term bonds. This item was endorsed by the Budget and Finance Committee on September 27th. We have been in negotiations with Citibank as far back as last April. Citibank owns $74.7 million of our 2006 bonds. The bonds are callable starting July 1st of 2016. Their rationale was that they would like to extend the call date from 2016 to 2023. They are trying to realign their investment portfolio. In exchange for us extending the call option, they are going to give MDX 5% of the par amount, or $3.7 million. And this transaction is actually going to be done through a refunding, and they will be paying our cost of issuance associated with this transaction. We also have conferred with Bond Counsel. The $3.7 million would go into the construction fund for the use of construction projects, as this is considered bond proceeds under our bond documents.
Mr. Fernandez Guzman,
I will move the motion forward.
seconded by the Vice Chair.
And
Any
I'd like-
comments? Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a comment. In the budget meeting, we talked about that this would go back to fund the programs. I'd like to see consideration be given to that this money, which is very welcome at this opportunity, very unforeseen and fortunate for us, is that consideration be given to that it goes to pay down the debt instead of the program. I think it's most appropriate that we do it that way.
That's actually an excellent suggestion.
It's been moved with modification, and that's a friendly amendment, okay, to the motion.
Marie, can we do that?
I believe we cannot do that. It's considered bond proceeds that would go into the capital program.
Well, okay.
We could certainly bring that money into the capital program. And
The other way. You
We can
can,
offset it through the general fund.
Correct.
But you would have to make that motion to allow me to use general fund money.
All right, so let's do this in a two-step basis. Let's approve then item, if that's all right with the attorney, we'll approve the item, which is item 9C as submitted, and then I'll accept Vice Chair for a new motion, all right?
good.
Is that all right with everyone? All
absolutely.
right, so we're now voting on item 9C. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? All right, Madam Vice Chair,
Okay,
the chair recognizes you for.
Thank you.
Make a motion.
Making a motion that we take that same amount of money from the general funding to pay down the debt.
Okay. We will execute that transaction, report back to the Budget and Finance Committee on November 19th.
Is there a second to that
I'll
motion?
second.
Seconded by Fernandez Guzman. Further discussion on on this motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So it carries. We're now on item D. Marie.
Item D, we are requesting a motion to replace our current dissemination agent that was Bank of New York under our bond documents. This item is a cost of $1,500 and $250 per event. Normally, you would not see this type of contract before the board because of its dollar limit. It's under the executive director's authority. However, since we had assigned Bank of New York as dissemination agent for disclosure purposes, we are requesting that the board take action and replace that with digital assurance certification.
I will move it forward.
Been moved by Mr. Fernandez Guzman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by the Vice Chair. Further discussion? All those in favor of item D say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried unanimously. We're now on information items, procurement report.
Mr. Chair, as customary, the procurement report is in your packet. If there's any questions by any of the members, prepared
Are
to
there any
to respond.
questions on the procurement report? If not, it's accepted as submitted. In the chair's comments, I have three things that I just want to tell you. First of all, the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce on October 15th is having a powwow on all the transportation issues that are going on in Miami-Dade County. And I would recommend that as many of you as can make that, just tell Maria Luisa, and you'll be included in the group. And I think it's important that we not only be present, but that we be outspoken on all these issues that affect MDX. So I would urge all of you to make some time and go to that Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce on October 15th.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, just a comment to the board secretary that if more than one board member is going to be present at the Chamber of Commerce meeting, then we need to notice it as a sunshine meeting, and that there's some arrangement be made in order to take some minutes of comments.
Well,
from
I
board
think
members.
that since I think that more than two people will be there, if two people or more, Maria Luisa, then you're going to have to go through the process of recording it and all that, okay? And noticing it and so on, so that we can be within the law.
I'm sorry, I have a question, if I may. That two board members cannot be in the same room?
No, they can be in the same room. The question is if regarding the discussion. If they're in the same room and they're discussing the performance of the Dolphins last night, no problem. But if they're in a room and they're discussing matters which could come before this board, then that is a sunshine meeting, and therefore that needs to be governed by the rules relating to sunshine. So if they're there just listening and they don't make any comments, there's no problem with that. But once the chairs encourage people to be outspoken, and so if they're going to be outspoken, that starts to be a conversation.
Well, I think the safest thing to do is just to sunshine it, and that's not a problem. I mean, that's a little bit of a problem for Maria Luisa, and because she has to record it and keep a copy of it, but I don't think it's a major issue. And if Javier's there, maybe he can just take the notes, and then I don't think it's a major issue.
I think that's the safe way to handle it.
Thank you. Any further questions on that? On the IBTTA report that our executive director made, I'd like to point out that we should all be very proud of Javier Rodriguez, who, as you know, will be the president of IBTTA in 2 years. And he's acting accordingly, and everybody recognizes him and seeks his advice and his participation, and I think it's noticeable. But we also had Alfred and Juan there, and they were active in many things. Alfred presented, I think, 3 times, and he's getting to be a well-known person at IBTTA also. Thirdly, the one thing that Javier did not mention, that I went to all of the finance meetings, And here's basically the bottom line of what everybody's saying. One, beware, changes are coming. The probabilities are that interests will go up. Two, the pay for use industry is the only game in town. And so that if you're gonna do any kind of a project or increase tolls and use that for construction this is the time to do it. By this is the time to do it in the next 3 or 4 months. And all these, I'm talking about people from Goldman Sachs, Citi, BC, they were all the top people from these entities were there. They were all saying the same thing. The lady from Moody's, of course, was more limited as to what she could say, but they were all saying the same thing. And this is the time for P3s or P4s, as I like to call them, because of the public aspect. But that was all very heavily discussed, and there are a lot of people thinking of doing pretty much what MDX is doing, and that includes managed lanes, by the way. I think managed lanes was the other big subject. By the way, there were a lot of people that were, for the first time, I've heard some skepticism on managed lanes, saying, well, you know, the jury's out on managed lanes. We really don't know whether they're going to work as well as everybody thinks that they're going to work. But everybody's really moving in that direction. So it's a big, and what Javier said is the real key to it, TTT, which is tolls, transit, and technology. And you can marry those three things, then that's where the future lies. The last thing that I want to comment on is the Florida Transportation Commission. The big thing that I think with this governor that's going on is these transit corridors. And the transit corridor that I think is moving very quickly is Tampa, Jacksonville. I mean, that seems to be where everybody seems to be concentrating. I'm not too sure that's great news for us in Southeast Florida, but I think it's at least a movement of recognizing the urbanization of Florida and how these regions have to connect. And I think that's important for us in the long run because of what the FEC Railroad is doing and because of these managed lanes. I think this managed lanes that this governor and this Department of Transportation is pursuing with such vigor, if they work and if they turn out to be what the Reason Foundation say they are, it's going to be a major breakthrough in transportation for the nation and I think internationally. So we're a small player in this particular game, but I think we're an important player because of the east-west aspects of MDX. So I think stay tuned. This is important. The other thing that I think is happening is this PC all aboard project seems to be moving along, and I think that's going to greatly change a lot of things in transportation in the state of Florida. The FTC is in the midst of changes, and I'll keep you informed, and that's all I have. We're now in announcements. I think the Board of Directors meeting of November the 5th, Maria Luisa, has to be changed because that's an election day. And that'll conflict with a lot of people so we have to, is it all right if we move it a week later? Does anybody have a major conflict? Instead of November the 5th, it would be November the 12th. Is that all right with you, Javier?
That's fine.
Does anybody
That's
have
fine.
a problem with that?
No, I'm cheering.
Huh?
I'm cheering.
Yeah, that's good, okay? All right? So if possible, let's change it to November the 12th. The operating committee is on
Right. Is on the 22nd.
22nd?
Intergovernmental is on the 22nd. And as I mentioned at the Budget and Finance, we're going to be working with the chair of the operations and the chair of Budget and Finance to have a joint meeting to discuss the capital program.
These next 2-3 meetings are going to be important because we have several things that are really going on. One is the MIC. Hopefully, we'll have some action on that before the end of the year. Secondly, is the financing.
Welcome to Verizon Wireless. The wireless customer you called is
we have some financing and the selection of an underwriter and the process of moving along on that. And then we, of course, have the very important, hopefully, 10-year strategic plan, which is beginning to move. So those are three things that I hope we can keep our eye closely on over the next 3 or 4 months. I have nothing else. We're now in general counsel, and we need, okay, I have to read the attorney-client session. You want me to read from this? Yes, right there. The time is now 4:45, just as I promised you. We are about to have an attorney-client session in accordance with the Florida Statute 286.011 regarding the litigation style electronic transaction consultants corporation versus Miami-Dade Expressway Authority, case number 12-46272 CA 40 in the 11th Judicial Circuit in and for Miami-Dade County, Florida. The session is estimated to last less than 30 minutes, and the following people will be in attendance at this meeting: members of the board that are present here, MDX attorneys Richard J. Weiss, Joseph H. Sirota, and Michael Ernstein, Javier Rodriguez, Executive Director. You want me to keep on reading? These proceedings will be recorded by a certified court reporter. At the conclusion of all litigation discussions, the transcripts will be made part of the public record. All of these individuals who I have named should leave the room and reconvene in the conference room, which is right behind me. That's it.
Mr. Chairman, just one you wanted me to make a little comment about the opinion that we've
Please.
issued, just
Okay.
for clarification.
You have before you an opinion from Weiss, Sirota, Helpman, Pastoriza, Cole, and Bonaski on the issue of quorum. So would you elaborate?
First of all, I wanted to tell the board that certainly it's not our intention as an interim basis to change anything that doesn't need to be changed. But sometimes there are sort of differing views on how things should be handled. And one of the things that, and I have discussed this with Pam, that we do have a little different view about is how you make a quorum at a meeting. And based upon some opinions from the Attorney General's office, the view of our firm is that a quorum needs to be present at the meeting. A physical quorum needs to be present at the meeting. And that once a quorum is present at the meeting physically, then members can participate and vote. Other members can participate and vote by telephone. But in order to have a quorum, there needs to be a quorum here. And we've attached a copy of a relatively recent Attorney General's opinion that sort of goes through this. There are no court cases on point, but we believe this is the conservative way to operate. And so that's our recommendation.
Well, we have to honor, of course, what your recommendation is, but this is what this does to us. It creates a problem at committee meetings. So I'm going to ask you then, and I ask for the chair of the committees to keep their meetings short and be on time, and let's see if we can get out within an hour, and let's see if we can bunch these committee meetings so that they can be as close to so that we don't, bring you out here 3-4 times a month, but we just do it once or twice.
I think it's ganging.
Yeah, well, ganging and short is the mode of the day. So with that, we will convene in the conference room.
Javier. Just check.
Now reopen the public meeting. The attorney-client session has now been terminated, and members of the general public are now invited to return for any further proceedings or matters. Seeing none, is there anything else we need to do? Is there a motion to adjourn? It's been moved, seconded. Further discussion, we stand adjourned. Thank you.